Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Friday's calendar.
Yes, thank you for joining us, and here are tonight's main stories.
Absolute rubbish. It should be cut down now, and I'll cut it down myself.
A row over a 150-year-old oak tree sees campaigners climb it to stop it from being felled.
The long road to recovery, 5 years after COVID first reached our shores. We hear from those still living with the symptoms.
I can only leave my room once a day to the toilet. I have to use a commode next to my bed. It's unimaginable unless you've been through it.
It's good to talk, but in a mobile world, why are more and more youngsters not making or receiving calls?
There's no showstopper or theatrics in this week's weather story, but a little bit of sunshine in the forecast a little later on. And
from Broadway to Bradford. Why some of the cast of Hamilton haven't had far to travel to tread the boards at the Alhambra. First, to the row over the 150-year-old oak tree which has divided a West Yorkshire town.
Yes, the council wants to fell the tree, which is in a riverside park in Otley, to make way for a temporary footbridge to allow the main road bridge to be repaired. Not felling the tree, it says, would cause traffic chaos.
And in a show of just how high passions are running today, saw an environmental campaigner climb the tree to prevent workers from cutting it down. Helen Steele reports.
This is a town divided, not only by its bridge, but by this 150-year-old oak tree. Residents, especially on the north side of Otley, say if there are roadworks on the bridge, traffic wouldn't cope. Now, this bridge dates back to medieval times, and Leeds City Council says it needs to repair this footpath urgently. It says it needs to build a new temporary footbridge over on this side. If it didn't, it would have to close one lane of this road off for pedestrians. In doing that, it would need to install temporary traffic lights, and the council says that would add 45 minutes onto a short journey. What's preventing this temporary bridge being built? This tree and these protesters. The council says it needs to fell the oak tree and a nearby tulip tree in order to build it. Even when we've been here, you faced quite a lot of people who were really angry. What's kind of your response to them?
We kind of understand that.
Silver is one of a group of protesters to take turns camping out to protect the trees since before Christmas. So you've been out here in all weathers, in the snow. You must feel really strongly about this.
Yeah, I do. I've worked with nature all my life. Probably some of the stuff we do may seem a little bit more radical, but this morning we've managed to repel a felling here, and that will enable the campaign group to negotiate further.
But not everyone is happy.
Oh, sorry, your house burnt down. Oh, sorry, your family members died because we couldn't get to them on time.
Local resident David wants the campaigners gone immediately. Why is that?
Why is that? Because people have to cross this bridge regularly. It's jammed up. There's ambulances, fire engines. People will die because they can't sort the bridge problem out. That's why.
David lives on the north side of the bridge. So does Sue.
I went to the consultations. It seems like the only feasible option within, that triangle of cost, money, resource.
Brenda lives on the south side. She says there isn't even a need for a temporary bridge, which could cost £2 million.
All people have got to do for walking, there's a white bridge down there. Literally, you go down and come round, and that they could use that.
How far is that, do you think?
10-minute walk.
Ex-Leeds Mayor Jerry, a fellow Southside resident, says Leeds City Council is being short-sighted.
They're going to spend £2 million on a temporary bridge, which is going to be there for 3 months, and then after that it's gone.
The council says there is no alternative, and the trees have to be felled before nesting season in February. So time is running out to build the temporary bridge, which for some is a lifeline, for others a bridge too far. Helen Steele, ITV News in Otley.
Some more news now. A teenager who died in a crash near West Bretton in Wakefield will be honoured at Leeds United's game on Saturday. Kobe Jones, who was 18, died in the crash last Friday. Daniel Grace and Shay Doyle, both aged 19, also died. A picture of Daniel, who was an avid Leeds United fan, will be shown on a big screen at Elland Road during the 19th minute of their game against Cardiff. Well, next to urgent calls for more action from those who say their lives have been decimated by long COVID.
Incredibly, it's 5 years to the day since the UK's first coronavirus case was discovered in York. But half a decade on, and hundreds of people in our region are still suffering with the long-term effects of the virus.
Now, it takes many forms, often causing fatigue, breathlessness and brain fog. But with no cure, those suffering can only try and manage their symptoms, as Ben Bason's been finding out.
I was an extremely active person. I was a triathlon runner, swimmer, cyclist. I was training for a marathon.
For Fran, it's hard to remember the life she once led. Even after contracting a mild case of ME, she still managed to work as a vet. But COVID changed all of that, leaving her almost completely bedbound with debilitating fatigue, weakness and chronic vertigo. She's left the house once in the last 2 years.
I can't walk or stand. I can only leave my room once a day to the toilet. I have to use a commode next to my bed, and I'm fully reliant on care from my family. It's unimaginable unless you've been through it. I think, life decimating, basically.
For Army veteran Paula, it almost became too much. After her previously active life, she was bedridden for 6 weeks and off work for 8 months after she caught COVID for the third time.
I became incredibly depressed to the point where I just didn't want to be here anymore. I couldn't live. If this was my life, then I didn't want that life.
There is NHS support for those suffering with long COVID. Specialist clinics like this one in Doncaster were set up across the country during the pandemic. But with no cure or official treatment for the whole condition, they can only help patients manage their symptoms.
It's been trial and error, so at the beginning it was just putting in the treatment pathways and the assessment approaches that we thought we would need to by using therapy skills that we've already got as therapists and clinicians.
What is your fatigue like at the minute?
One day I could be all right, next minute I could be really, really tired.
By tackling each symptom, the team in Doncaster have been making a real difference. They offer a wide range of help. Card exercises like this have been helping Tracy, who suffered with memory problems after COVID.
So I've been having lots of difficulty in conversations where I meant to remember somebody's name or remember to do something. So I've had to now rely on writing lots of things down.
Patients like Tracy are on the slow path to recovery, but for others, the future looks less bright.
We absolutely need the government to be not just talking the talk, but walking the walk with when it comes to research and funding. We need, ring-fenced funding for research into these conditions, which are drastically underfunded.
Some people who've got long COVID have come to accept the fact that they may never fully recover. And although some efforts are undoubtedly easing the suffering, many long for a research breakthrough to help them get their lives back to some form of normality.
Yes, you've got to have sympathy for anyone who's suffering from long COVID. Ben's with us in the studio now. And Ben, how much progress has actually been made in understanding long COVID?
Well, Ian, I looked into long COVID for a story back in 2022. Back then, it was a fairly new condition and experts were still trying to get their heads around it, really. And to be honest, nearly 3 years later, we're not too much further on. There has been some good research into what effects it has on people, but scientists are still hunting for that silver bullet, which is the biological cause behind long COVID. If they had that, then it would be easier for them to develop more medication and treatments for the whole of the condition. But experts in our region are worried that there's less appetite for that kind of research than there was.
So there's a lack of interest or a loss of interest in COVID and long COVID generally, because we sort of moved on as a society and decided we're not really as interested in it anymore. Funding agencies were very interested in COVID initially because it was a significant health problem, but funding has sort of dried up, and there isn't as much funding for long COVID as there used to be.
Ben, anything from the government on this?
Well, the Department of Health told me that they're committed to ensuring that there are quality services for those with long COVID throughout the country. In a statement, they said that no single treatment currently exists for long COVID, which is why we provide funding for more research into the condition, including clinical trials to test and compare different treatments.
Ben Basin, thank you.
Now, stay with us because still to come before 6:30.
Delighted to stay for the next 3.5 years, unfinished business.
Chris tells Chris why he's put pen to paper with the blades.
The snowdrops are doing nicely now and the gauze is out, but it's the sunshine coming out this weekend. Your full forecast coming up shortly.
Join us later to find out about our fantastic production of Hamilton here in Bradford.
We're all right, aren't we?
Yes, we'll look forward to that shortly. Now then, we're told there's been a fall in the number of independent bookshops on our high street.
The number of new ones opening in the last 12 months hasn't been enough to offset the number closing, and figures show that we're spending less money on our books than we were a year ago.
Yeah, well, it's raising concerns for retailers and also for authors, as James Webster reports.
Where do you go when you're looking for a new book? The number of people browsing online rather than in their local shops is one of the concerns facing those who run independent bookstores. Sadie Hatch is the manager of Rhyme and Reason in Sheffield.
Because of things like Amazon, I think there is a decline. People are turning to online a lot more. I think after COVID as well, a lot of people don't want to go into smaller spaces, which can affect independent businesses in general.
As our shopping habits change, so too do our high streets. Despite 45 new independent bookshops opening last year, the overall number has fallen because of other closures. There are now just 1,052, and we're buying fewer books, down 1.7% on the previous year. It's a concern for the association that represents booksellers.
Some of the stuff that we lobby on to government and in the industry is around the increased cost of doing business. National insurance contributions going up, rent and rates can be colossal. A rent increase can be the thing that will tip over a small business into being unviable just overnight. So I think those sorts of things, for a shop that's doing everything otherwise right, can be the difference between success and failure.
Many shops are finding new ways to connect with customers, opening cafes and running events. And it's these connections which authors like AJ West say they value. He recently toured bookshops promoting his latest novel.
There's no two ways about it. If it weren't for independent bookshops, I wouldn't have a career as a novelist, and a lot of my friends who are authors wouldn't either. Because unless you are a novelist who has one of the big publishers with a big marketing spend behind it, you're going to really struggle to get your books into the hands of readers. Whereas there's nothing like an independent bookshop for championing a book and hand selling it and saying, we've read this book, we love it, we've met the author, you have to read this.
The Booksellers Association's offering support and advice to retailers on how they can offer something different to the bigger chain stores.
I think independents are very often buying books especially for their customers, and they're also engaging with that community across with school children, so they'll often take authors into schools, they'll run book groups, they'll be creating a conversation around books and book selling in a way that a chain store might find it harder to do.
With customers still worrying about the cost of living and retailers dealing with rising staffing costs and other bills, independent retailers are being warned there are more challenges ahead. One of the reasons they want to persuade more customers to use their local independent traders. James Webster, ITV News.
OK, well, it's time for some sport now.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
And tonight it seems that if you're not called Chris, then you're nobody really. You don't matter, do you?
Yeah, there's no point being here, is there?
Not really.
Well, yeah, I went to speak to the Sheffield United manager, Chris Wilder, this morning. Another Chris. Now, as football fans know, Chris is in his second spell in charge of his boyhood club. The first was a big success, taking them from the Premier League from League One to the Premier League, I should say. And now he's well placed to rack up a third promotion with the Blades, second in the Championship table. Well, earlier this week, Chris was rewarded with a new 3-year contract from the club's new American owners.
Delighted to stay for the next 3.5 years. Unfinished business. Didn't want to leave in the first place. I'm not go too deep into that now. Maybe not the right time, but certainly delighted to be back. You know, we had to suffer last year, everybody, and it was always going to be a pretty simple and easy decision from my point of view.
Is this season going better than maybe you expected?
Yeah, I've got to say. A fabulous first 29 games of the season. I think, you know, the work that we did in the summer in terms of the rebuild, which had to happen, it was needed. Changing the way we played as well. A lot of players going out, a lot of players coming in. You always want to get off to a decent start, but we got off to a brilliant start, and we put ourselves in the mix for what is, I'm sure, is going to be an exciting second part or last third of the season. It's an exciting future for us, you know, as far as I'm concerned. Academy's in a great position. You know, we've acquired a new training ground that hopefully we can start developing as well. But excited for the new owners as well. You know, they're ambitious, they want to win, and I think, you know, I think they understand that I'm ambitious and I want to win too.
And as you mentioned, they're certainly backing you, aren't they? You've brought in 4 new players in January.
Yeah, we had 2 loan slots that we needed to fill, and we should have filled at the start of the season, but we didn't. And we've been ambitious in terms of the signing of Tom Cannon, who's a very talented young player that I'm sure can grow and mature and be an asset to us, you know, short, medium, and long term.
Are you expecting maybe more business to be done before the deadline Monday night?
Trying, as always am, as most managers will say. Another one in, trying to get that extra one in, but you're really going down the stretch. You need that experience, and the owners have backed me in that, and they're ambitious, and hopefully we can achieve all the dreams that we're after.
Yeah, great to chat to Chris this morning. OK, Rotherham's Junaid Boston will hope to get his hands on his first title as a professional boxer tonight. The 22-year-old will fight for the English crown when he takes on Bilal Fawaz at the O2 Arena in London. Junaid has won all 10 of his professional fights, 8 of them by knockout, and is out to put on another dominant performance.
I put all the hard work in the gym to make it easy comes fight night, so I look at putting on a clinical performance and, God willing, an emphatic stoppage. And I don't really want to pay too much on the title. I've got a task at hand, and I'll reap the rewards after January 31st, which is the English title.
Now, do either of you two know who the modern-day Norris McWhirter or Roy Castle is? Because we think we might have a new world record. Now, take a look at this. This is the result from AFC Eastfield's game against Pocklington Town's 4th team in the East Riding County League Division 4. Never accuse us of not covering the lower leagues. Now, what do you notice about this 10-0 win for Eastfield?
Well, there's only 5 goal scorers there.
Good spot. OK, so many of the players scored, we've had to go on to a second page. There you go. There you go. In fact, 10 different outfield players scored, which they think could be a world record. Great news for them. But what we do know is that it was an expensive afternoon for club secretary Stephen Crosby, who promised the team at the start of the season he'd buy every player a drink if they scored 10 goals in a game without conceding.
I was very, very concerned about the conversation I'd have with my wife afterwards. So the only thing I could think of was that I was pleading with our guys to score an own goal. I offered to give them £20, and to me that was a cheaper alternative as opposed to doing what I had to do, and I was buying them all a drink afterwards.
So let us know if that is a world record, if you know, or if you've beaten it yourselves.
Well, I'll tell you what, your little fingers are worn out typing all those names into that graphic.
Oh yeah, they were actually, yeah. So many players, imagine that. 10 goal scorers in one
Love
game.
it that everybody
Amazing.
feels really good for scoring. Thank
Exactly.
Now, for those of us old enough to remember, we were once told, of course, It's good to talk. Well, that may not be the case anymore.
No, while they love to text, email or post on social media, a growing number of younger people, well, they actually avoid making or taking calls.
Yes, it's now at the point where some youngsters and some adults have to take training courses to boost their phone confidence, as Lauren Hall's been finding out.
This video's been a big hit on social media. Its creator often has to make and take calls at work, but that doesn't mean it comes naturally.
Hello, Henry speaking.
Hi there, Henry, it's Lauren at ITV. He is expecting my phone call and is happy to chat.
I know that talking on the phone can, for some people, be quite nerve-wracking. What's your experience of that?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's the unexpected calls that definitely throw me, in a sense that I don't have time to sort of prep for them. And I think that's an experience that so many people sort of share in terms of just the fear of the unexpected.
In fact, a quarter of 18 to 34-year-olds say they never answer the phone. That's according to a survey which found 2/3 prefer receiving a text or instant message. And instead of making phone calls, nearly half would rather communicate on social media. While this is another way of reaching out to friends and family. More than a third of those in that younger age group say they like to send voice notes. It comes as no surprise to the director of Yorkshire Psychotherapy.
So I see a lot of clients that struggle with speaking on the telephone, particularly younger generation, because they're not used to using the phone, because now we use texts and emojis, etc. So yeah, it is pretty common.
A chat with students proves that point.
I can't make phone calls. I have to write out everything I'm going to say, and even then it takes me like 10 minutes to work up to it.
It's quite anxiety-inducing to see phone ring out of nowhere.
Go away.
Makes me think I've done something wrong.
So your phone's ringing. What are you going to do?
No, thank you.
Throw it on the floor.
OK, we're going to be practising telephone conversation today.
Their college has started running workshops to build their phone confidence.
Good morning, this is Responsive Utilities. How can I help you today?
Students use role play to get them used to talking on the phone.
It's about giving them the safe space in which to practice and improve their skills.
So I'm calling to report a PAL failure in my area.
I would like to make an appointment to see Dr. Smith, please.
If they're not used to making telephone calls, it makes them nervous. They're having to think on the spot. They're having to formulate responses, and that's incredibly challenging for them.
That's why they're being encouraged to keep on practicing. So they'll eventually want to pick up their phones rather than throwing them on the floor. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
I can't get you off the phone.
Nonsense.
You're always on the phone chatting.
Remember the old days? Hello, Yorkshire Television.
Oh, Keza.
Well, once I talk, I can't stop.
No, chatting on the landline when you were a teenager.
Absolutely love it for hours and hours and hours, yeah. Not a fan of the voice notes, though.
No, I can't stand them.
Also not a great fan of just, that stratus cloud, the sort of mid-level, not much sunshine. It's been really quite disappointing today. But I think I have led a sheltered life, because earlier in the week I said I hadn't seen a heron in flight. I've seen one swooping in and swooping off, but not in flight. So I had quite a few photos. So a big thank you to Marvin Carter, who sent this one, just taken this morning against, of course, those pretty grey skies. And talking of things in flight and something else I've never actually seen, I think I said this time last year, check out these beautiful shots from the Starlings commemoration in Ripon from our camera operator Paul Kingston. There can be any number between 500 and 6 million coming home to roost at one time. That's the record 6 million. Migrant birds at this time of the year in December and January mix with the resident birds, which makes the numbers bigger. Each individual starling follows 6 around it so they don't bump into each other. Mesmerising. Absolutely love it.
Always quite special if you do see it.
Really special, yeah. The last couple of days weather-wise were quite special, I think, in terms of the sunny spells we got. I know we got some chilly nights, but some really decent days the last couple of days. Big thank you to Martin for this, the viaduct and, of course, Armscliffe Crag there in the top right. He took this from Arlington, and this one was Goathland. Big thank you to Rose, who lives in Scarborough, for this. Gorgeous. And these cotton wall clouds, the cumulus bubbling up against the blue sky in Elland. A big thank you to Craig. So weather photos at itv.com. Can't promise that much blue sky, but it's not bad at the weekend. Forecast is coming up.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
See you shortly. Now, finally from us, an actor from Leeds has secured one of the starring roles in the award-winning musical Hamilton, which is about to begin a run at the Alhambra Theatre in Bradford.
Yeah, Ashley Daniels started treading the boards at his nursery nativity. Then he went on to take part in shows at his high school in Morley. Well, fast forward then to 2025, and it will be his family who will be among the audiences expected to pack out the theatre.
Well, Katie Oscroft went to meet him and some of the other stars.
It's a riot of colour, dance and music. Now Hamilton has come from Broadway to Bradford.
Eventually, it all just kind of goes in.
Ashley plays a different role either side of the interval, but one's American and the other's French.
Sometimes it is tough. I get to just before a line. I'm like, what accent is this going to be in? And I'm never too sure.
That must be tough for a boy from Leeds.
Yeah, because you don't hear many French accents in Yorkshire, I'll say that, or American accents. So it is a bit tough.
Where did your acting career start?
Well, I'd been in shows since I was a kid, so obviously doing the nativity and stuff like that. I played the tree. It was very itchy actually, I remember that now.
Do you think people knew then that tree is destined for stardom?
I would like to think so.
This musical's about the American War of Independence and set in the 1700s. Billy and Marley play bitter rivals Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton.
It takes a long time to learn. We have about a week to learn the music, week and a half to learn the music. But once it's in you,
it's there.
It's never going to leave.
It's there. There's over 20,000 words in the show. I think it's about over 150 per minute, which is, the most of any kind of musical theatre show. So we have a good time, but it's definitely tough on the mouth.
A lot to get out.
Backstage, and the talk is where to go when the curtain falls. And Ashley's a bit of a local, he'll be showing you around?
Yes, definitely, yeah, completely, he is. Yeah, so he'll definitely be showing us places around Bradford and Leeds.
On stage, and this show is now ready for audiences in the City of Culture. And whilst many of the cast are staying close to the theatre, Ashley will head back to Mum and Dad's. Do you have to tiptoe so you don't wake them up?
No, they're very deep sleepers. Usually I'm the one who's thinking, gosh, keep it down. They have sometimes they watch horror films to go to sleep to, and my mum's a terrible snorer. Please don't air that.
You can trust me.
This is Hamilton.
You absolutely can't trust Katie.
You can trust me, I'm a journalist. That's what she was going to say.
OK, let's go to the weather.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again, yes, cloudy skies today, sunshine at a premium. Not the best of views from Scarborough, certainly compared to yesterday where there was plenty of blue sky despite being on the chilly side. As we head into the weekend, breezy conditions, west-best tomorrow, but head south and eastwards for the best of the sunshine as we head into Sunday. So for today, you can see that lovely slice of sunshine just hanging out in the west. We need it to edge its way eastwards, and it's a pretty slow process, unfortunately, as we head through into tomorrow. And that cloud that's been hanging around us over the course of today is just going to thicken up as we head through into tonight. So it's a fairly grey, gloomy, damp story as we head into the early hours, and even where we have a touch of frost under clearer skies, some low-lying mist and fog here by the time we reach dawn. So pretty grey, damp, chilly start as we head into tomorrow. There are sun times for Saturday, 7:53 and 4:47. So if you want the sunny spells, best chance of that will be in the west, especially into the second half of the day. But it's pretty limited. For most of us, we're dry but fairly cloudy, some thinning at times, 1 or 2 brighter breaks, 6 or 7 Celsius, and the wind's starting to freshen from that southerly direction. As we head into Sunday, fronts trying to edge in from the northwest, but not really making much progress, knocking up against an area of high pressure. So the further south and east you go, the best of the drier and brighter conditions. And then we look to the northwest over the next couple of days. Fronts trying to come through, but just bringing variable amounts of cloud and breezy conditions, but high pressure by Wednesday.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go. It's not a bad weekend. Not much rain, and that's that high pressure there. Something to look forward to for midweek next week.
Very good.
You're a tease.
Hey, someone out there, you know, said that we weren't matching tonight, but we've got flowers on, haven't we? We're all wearing flowers.
Floral.
Yeah,
That's
are.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a theme.
That's all from us for now, but Emma Haywood will be back at 11:05. Don't miss that.
Good night.
Bye-bye.